and also with the team's title. But Kimberley Bos here does have a chance to overhaul Tina Hermann. It's not as clear-cut, or not as much in Hermann's favour as the Christopher Groothair versus Matt Weston battle was. And Groothair had a great final day to the season today to finish on the podium, having been in 6th place in the first run. Almost, for the very first time in history, a British 1, 2, 3. Yeah. But Craig Thompson, that bronze just slipped from his fingers. That would have been, I think, confirmation already that that would have been a first ever all-British podium in skeleton. Well, in the women's race, it's unlikely to be an all-British podium, but they are getting stronger. Brogan Crowley and Laura Deas both really having a decent season here. And the two young sliders who we saw earlier in the season, Freya Tarbit and Tammy Stocker, have finished 1st and 2nd in the overall rankings in the Europe Cup today in Innsbruck. So congratulations to them. Tammy Stocker taking her first ever win in the final race of the season. So the British skeleton team getting stronger and stronger. Yeah. And you know, and that presents the coaches with a little bit of a problem, is you've got two fast developing young athletes who next year might be vying for a spot in the World Cup as well. So it's going to be interesting times.
Yeah, but next year we don't have the ICC anymore.
Exactly,
so we're actually going to have more spots on the World Cup for athletes. So we could be seeing 4 or so British athletes, 4 or so Germans. It'll be a very interesting turn and change for the sport. And
change is always interesting, isn't it? Now, not everybody welcomes change, but change happens whether you welcome it or not. Well, it's a bit of a misty, moisty afternoon here. We're close to the coast of the Baltic Sea, and it is fairly damp. So that means the track speeds are not extremely high for our 17 athletes. We start with Li Yuxi of China. And in fact, everybody here pretty much has raced on this track before. So we have got experience. We've been coming here only for the last 4 seasons, but there have been quite a lot here who have raced on the track before, either in the World Cup previously or, as in the case of Susanne Kreher, in the Intercontinental Cup, which is the 2nd tier of sliding, which has now vanished.
Yep.
Li Yuxi of China gets us underway. Fabulous Chinese lion on the helmet, and the 24-year-old has raced here just the once before in December 2021, finished in 25th place in the packed pre-Olympic field. Let's see what she's got for us today. Martin Haven and Elizabeth Meyer watching the action.
5:28 getaway for her.
So important, Elizabeth, to be as clean as you can up the top. And she's already skidding all over the track.
Definitely. So when the athletes are skidding, obviously they're not gaining so much speed, but it could be equipment setup, could be the athletes wiggling and jiggling. Really late high entry and big tap there.
But all of those are going to take speed away. Tap dancing to try and stop the sled skidding down into the final corners. Uphill all the way into the Kreisel, skidding in sideways in the gutter. Well, 52.74 slide. And again, this is a track that is not for the faint-hearted. It is pretty full on, this place.
And you definitely got to be on it from the top. And it's so difficult because the transitions are so quick that should a mistake happen earlier on, you really have to just, okay, think next corner, okay, bring it back. But it's sometimes 3 or 4 corners down the track before you really get back on your line. This is coming out of the first corner. She has a big skid as she heads into corner 2. Anything she had left from her start was gone by this point. Now this big uphill section heading into Kreisel as well. Just a huge skid and a very late left entry as she heads into the Kreisel. And because of the angle of the Kreisel, that's a big pressure that she would have felt.
Yep. Well, previous best here, 25th. And there are 17 sleds in the field, so she should improve on that. Alessandra Fumagalli of Italy. 6th World Cup start only for Alessandra, the 24-year-old. It's her 4th this season, so she and Alessia Kripper have been basically sort of in and out and in and out and in and out. Raced here in Europe Cup and in the Intercontinental Cup, so it's her World Cup debut on this track, but she does have a couple of seasons of experience in sliding. Again, I'm really loving the Day-Glow yellow. A bit of a hard load, but she managed to keep it straight down into turn 1 and a 5.04.
That's a great start by this athlete. Big, really a little bit messy here, though, at the top part of the track. Could have been from that loading onto the sled, just a little bit off.
Well, the start record is a 4.84. Only 2 women have ever won on this track. Elena Nikitina twice, and Janine Flock the last 3 times. Nikitina with a start. Fumagalli's off the sled and back on.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, 10-11, 11-12, 12-13 have been causing all sorts of problems for all sorts of people, and Alessandra Fumagalli is not unique in that.
No, it's a very difficult group of corners.
53.05. Well, she's down safely.
Yep.
Ish. Probably feeling it there from that dump onto the ice at speed. She'll have been doing 55 miles an hour there, and if you can imagine coming off a motorcycle onto the road at 55, even an icy road. Yeah. It
just misses her saddle as she goes to load on the sled. I mean, it is a bit of a blind load for the athletes to go from 1 hand to 2 hands. Now, this is where we're going to see she drops that left toe, but it doesn't change the sled angle. So she's still going up. It didn't affect the sled like she needed to. Going to get some air time, bit of a shoulder bump, and then into the wall. And sparks as well.
Next run. Yeah. 1 more to go. Boom. That was a heavy landing. So from Italy, the home of the next Olympic Games, to Puerto Rico, and Kelly Delka rounding out this World Cup season for herself. 16th race of her World Cup career for the 35-year-old former US slider. 2 World Cups here, again, the last 2 were in February 2020 and December 21. She raced in both of those. Also came here in Europe Cup when she was learning European tracks back in 2016. So it's quite some memory bags. You saw Anna Mirambel there helping with the sled. The VP in charge of sport for IBSF.
She spent a lot of time on this track. She was here last week as well, getting extra week of training. This is almost like her home away from home, I would say.
What you're saying is she's got quite a deep masochistic streak then, because it is a tough track, isn't it?
It is a very difficult track, so to have that run volume is really going to be beneficial to her.
A couple of late flops, but trying to keep it all together. Long sliding skid there. She builds speed now. Over 60 miles an hour and accelerating, but she's lost her early advantage over Li Yuxi of China. And into the Kreisel. Will she be able to keep her nose in front? It's going to be second at the line by 400. She so nearly got back there.
Super close there for her. It wasn't a bad-looking run at all. Could be a bit of equipment setup, some small skids here and there, but here she is coming into that long straightaway before corner 15. Lots of athletes have been skidding, tapping, and struggling in this straightaway. She looks quite relaxed. I mean, her shoulders are coming up a little bit. That could be from bumps in the ice. And then into big corner 15, she drops her right toe to try and not get too much height, but she ends up very, very close to the roof. And then as she comes off of 15 into that uphill section.
Fully inverted. Kelly Delka. So 3 sleds down in the penultimate heat of the season as we get to our 4th starter, Brogan Crowley. 12th last time out here. She's had 3 World Cups here. In fact, Sigulda has been the venue where she has appeared sort of most randomly when she wasn't having a full World Cup season. So February and November 2020 and December 21, she went 22nd, 16th, 12th. That's her progress here. 21st World Cup start of her career.
She's such a quick starter.
Yeah. Has a great start and 5.08.
Very strong start, especially she's had a bit of a back injury this year, multiple surgeries through the summer. So really, she just keeps coming back, keeps fighting, and really is coming into her own as an athlete.
And carrying that speed early on, just a little bump away there at the top of the labyrinth.
the transitions look so aggressive here, but it's just the way the corners are formed.
Well, there are 2 3-corner, 4-corner labyrinths running together, basically from the exit of corner 2 down to 10. You're in one long tumble dryer, 7/10 up. This is a huge run from Brogan Crowley, looking really nice. Oh, and the late skid there coming into the Kreisel will take some speed away, but across the line, 51.77.
Hey.
Well, 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 a very good-looking slide. And again, you know, having that intimate knowledge of a coach like Martins Ducours of this track, he can tell you what you need to be doing and how to get the best out of it, but somehow you've got to be able to do it as well.
Definitely. You're going to see her drop her toe, a big heavy toe steer. We steer with our head, shoulders, knees, and toes. She's able to get the sled off, but it puts her into a bit of a skid, and she ends up very late to the next curve. Now, this is that uphill section from 15 to 16. And just, again, a big skid as she enters into 16, and that's going to be a heavy pressure into the Kreisel. What a great angle we're going to see here.
Yeah.
Really see the sled sideways. Honestly, though, she cleans that up, she'd be knocking on that track record.
Well, well, well. Okay, track record just for completeness is a 51.46, and she just came down 51.77. It's not the hardest, fastest ice, you know. -10 and like marble is where the records come from, but also where the jeopardy lies. Next up, Mirela Rahneva, our World Championship bronze medalist in Samoritz, the 34-year-old. 4 wins, 4 silvers, 5 bronze medals in her World Cup career. Best result here, though, a 12th place finish. Let's see what she's got for us today.
5:18 start. She's on some new equipment here. So those other results she had was on a bit more of a flexible setup. So here she could have a little bit, maybe a different result.
Yeah, she's definitely got the rattle of a Schneider sled underneath her. They make a very distinctive noise.
It's 2 completely different pieces of kit. So she's been swapping back and forth all season. She's a really talented athlete to be able to do that.
1600s back. Is she going to bring the gap down? She does bring the gap down. Tap dancing her way up to 15. Best speed of all. And if she's clean here, and she is clean, she has the lead over Brogan Crowley. Oh, big hit on the wall with a 51.66. So 1100s in it between our top 2 at the moment. So 4-time race winner Mirela Rahneva. 2 of those victories alone coming in Samoritz, where she won her World Championship bronze a couple of weeks ago.
Into this uphill section, coming out of 14, just stays on a little bit too much. So we see the runners underneath her. The runners are what touches the ice, their tubes. So you see she's skidding a little bit, toes tapping behind her, dancing behind her to try and bring it back. This is that uphill section as she heads into Kreisel, takes the top on the right side. It's pretty relaxed overall, but this is a big bump that she takes as she goes across the finish line.
Yeah, that's probably worth a 10th and a big
that's
bruise.
an hour.
Yeah, on the left, an hour. Okay, so Mirela Rahneva leads from Brogan Crowley and Yuxi of China. In the battle for the overall Crystal Globe, this woman is the one who might. Kimberley Bos of the Netherlands, bronze medalist on this track last year, and the only one here who was on the podium last year. Coach Kristen Bromley, who builds the sleds for her as well. The 29-year-old World Championship silver medalist and Olympic bronze medalist in the last 2 seasons. Has been a silver medalist on this track before. A win would definitely help in her battle with Tina Hermann. 5:10 start.
Pretty strong start there. Kim has such a unique sliding sense. She's really on that edge of control the whole way down.
Well, she's got an interesting record here. 9th, and then 2nd and 3rd in the last couple of races. Best speed of all. Oh, big hit there, though. Oh, this just whistled past. You can hear the difference, can't you, with the Bromley sled, is it doesn't have that kind of jangling noise. It just whistles by. Third best speed, she's behind by how much? 21 hundredths. That was that big hit. This could be 4/10ths back. It is 4/10ths back at the line.
She also popped up before the finish line as well. So she started braking before she crossed that blue line.
Yeah. Well, that big hit in the fast section down at the bottom, you really heard it, and that's where the speed vanished.
Definitely, that tap into 13 really affected her.
So it came out late.
Toast. Yeah. And then she's skidding as she enters in, and as she exits out, she's going to just take that big bump on the slider's left side, trying to save it with a toe. And she does a pretty good job at saving it, but it's just taken so much of her speed by this point. Now into the straightaway as well. She stays pretty, a little bit of skidding, definitely. Going to see those toes.
Long, late drift, isn't it, as the sled just loses pressure on the ice.
Yeah.
Well, she's still got a huge smile on her face. Kimberley Bos, the winner in Winterberg this year, her nearest track to home. Neise, the Olympic champion, has had an Olympic champion season, really. Won the first race, barely seen her since. I mean, not that she hasn't been here, but barely you've seen her on the podium. She's had one further podium. That was a bronze medal in Winterberg. And again, a very disappointing World Championships. But, you know, hey, Olympic champion at the age of, what, 22. So, you know, you can take a fallow season right after that, right?
Definitely. She's a relatively young athlete, so she's going to be looking for that consistency. We'll see her more on the podium, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And as we build up the pressure towards Milano Cortina, I'm sure she'll be right in the frame. Little tap down into corner 2. And again, that takes speed away.
We have bumpers on the side of our sleds that do take those bumps for us on the wall, but it takes the speed away.
Best speed of all so far, but a quarter second back. She was 3/10ths back, so she's coming in on Mirela Rahneva.
All right.
Yeah, holding that slide. Still 3/10ths back. This will be maybe third ahead of Kimberley Bos. Not quite. 100th back. Fourth place, 100th behind Kimberley Bos. And again, all the elegance that you expect from a landing over foam mattressing.
Yeah, we don't have brake on the sled, so you stop with your toes or your wind brake, or you hit those mattresses at the end.
Well, previous best here, a 13th place. Looks like a better run than that.
Yeah, here she comes off 1 to 2, just really fighting off that right-hand wall. We steer with our head, shoulders, knees, and toes, so when we see that body language, she's just fighting against the walls. This is into that big, long straightaway. Right elbow's just popping out a little bit. And it looks like she kind of brings it back online, but you can see the sled moving under her, just dancing a little bit. And then into the finish, we have plastic toe caps on our toes to use as brakes, and then mattresses that are supposed to stop us.
Yeah, kind of.
Ish.
So, yeah, Neise lying in 4th place out of 7 sleds. And now the big one. The yellow jersey marks out our World Cup points leader. This is the final race of the season. So 30-year-old Tina Hermann looking for another World Cup Crystal Globe. The European champion, 3 wins and a silver medal so far this season under her belt. And as so often is the case with Tina Hermann, her worst result is still a top 10 finish, and that was last time out in Innsbruck.
She's such a consistent slider, but I know this track is a little bit tricky for her. She's a perfectionist on the sled. We'll see her bobbing her head left and right to really get the exact line that she's wanting.
Well, she's had 2 bronze medals in her career here in Sigulda, and she needs another one today to guarantee that Crystal Globe. Second best speed, bringing the gap down to Mirela Rahneva. Kimberley Bos only
nice
in
looking
3rd.
Only 300s behind now. Now she's in the green.
Yeah. Well, she wants to win this Crystal Globe by winning this race, and right now she's doing the best job of all. A long skid across the line, but it's still the lead for Tina Hermann, 51.49.
300ths away from the track record.
Wow. And that is off a 5:29 start.
And it wasn't a perfect run. There was definitely room for improvement, areas to clean up. She took a big tap coming out of Kreisel.
Yeah. She's got that knowledge, that experience.
Yeah.
This is her 72nd World Cup race, only in the entire field. Janine Flock has done more, like about 30 more.
Yeah. Here she goes into that straightaway where she's just fighting that right side wall to get a nice entry into Kreisel, but ends up bumping a few times, skidding. Then into Kreisel, really big loops that we're not quite used to seeing from her. Dropping those toes to try and prevent that tap.
She was just waving that right toe there, desperate to drop it and trying not to. Kelly Curtis is next up, the 33-year-old from the USA. 20th last time out here in December 21. And that is her only race on this track. Had a pretty decent breakout World Cup season here, including her first ever World Cup medal with a bronze in Lake Placid just before Christmas. That was a big, big day. 5:15 for Kelly Curtis.
In Eagles last week, she tweaked her hamstring a little bit, so she might not quite be exactly where she wants to be on the start.
Again, with only one previous race on this track, it is going to be about trying to limit the damage all the way down. If you get a good run out of corner 2 into 3, then kind of the labyrinths follow on nicely. If you don't, then they don't.
Definitely. She has done a little bit of training here, comfort camps as well, to get the experience because she lives in Europe, so it's not that far for her to come.
Well, it's a long way from anywhere in Europe, in fairness, which everybody whinges about. It's a good 24-hour drive, but Kelly Curtis just losing the lead to Tina Hermann, and then the speed has plunged away down the run, 52.85. Well, for the first half of the track,
she was holding on.
She was holding on right in there. All right, she started, 1500s quicker than Tina Hermann, but she was right in there, and then it all went west in a hurry.
Definitely. Top part of the track looked pretty good, but once you get this tap, we've seen so many athletes take as well, 3 to 4. It's a really, again, tricky transition, but I feel like that's the MO for this track. Into this uphill section, this long straightaway, just fighting off the right wall, especially going into 15. You need to be on the slider's left side of the track so you can get a nice entry and it's not super high pressure. Again, just fighting off this right wall as she heads into Kreisel, just maybe a little bit not relaxed on the sled.
All right, one more slide to go in the season for Kelly Curtis. 2 for Laura Deas of Great Britain. 34-year-old in her 67th World Cup start, and her 5th here. 13th, 6th, 5th, and 14th last time out in December 2021. She claimed a bronze medal in Park City this season and has had a very much more positive year this year than in probably much of the last quad. Really looking forward to spending more time on this sled and with the coaching crew. 5:03. Well, she's never had much problem getting away from the block, has she?
That was a very strong start by Laura. And like you mentioned, she got a medal this year. Just going to be starting to gain confidence again, get it back.
And look how clean she was at the top. No tap from 1 to 2. Really smooth. Just a little late flop there down at the bottom of the labyrinth as she whips into 10 and 11. But the transition is clean.
Beautiful transition.
Oh, goodness me. It's been a big day for British Skeleton already. A little late flop there, 1300s. I don't think she's going to have the speed to catch Tina Hermann, but she could be in the top 2 here. This is a very nice looking first run. At least the first part of the track went really well, and it's 4th at the line. That shows how much speed you can lose with what looks like fairly small errors, but she was in there swinging on the top part of the run for sure.
Well, it was just that transition 13 to 14 really caught her off guard, and we're going to see it here. She drops that right toe to try and save it. That's such an aggressive transition as she heads into 14. She's fighting to stay on the sled. Honestly, without that, she would be flying at the bottom of the track. Into the straightaway, she's just trying to recover from that tap, get it all back online, get ready for big corner 15. She's still in it. She's definitely in a fighting position to get back on that podium, because that was a nice looking run till there.
Saw some support from the Brits who are here. That was actually Matt Weston's mum and dad giving the big shouts there. Tina Hermann is our leader from Mirela Rahneva. Brogan Crowley lies third, ahead of her teammate Laura Deas, Kim Bos and Hannah Neise. So 10 sleds down, penultimate heat of the season for the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. We're here in Sigulda in Latvia. Martin Haven and Elizabeth Meyer watching Anna Fernstaedt at the block. 45th World Cup start for Anna Fernstaedt, her 32nd now as a Czech Republic slider. 4 World Cups here, her best in November 2020, 4th place finish.
She's not a start rocket, but she knows how to drive.
Well, with the help of Jeff Payne, trying to rebuild her career again this season after struggling for the last couple of years. Discovered during last summer that she is in fact diabetic, and so now having to add that into the mix of making sure you take the right stuff and get the right food as well.
Exactly, and last evening I know she had a low, so she had to eat something, then she had too much of a high, so she had to go for a walk, and what an extra struggle to add on to an athlete's plate.
Well, she's gone from 2100s to 4300s back, 5th best speed. And again, like Tina Hermann, she knows how to build speed late in the run. What she got? 7th place at the line, 52.25. She's going to need to find something very special in the second heat to match a top 4 finish, but that actually was not a bad run.
No, and anything happens, especially on this track. But in racing, there can be lots of movement. We can see lots of changes. So she'll look at it. She'll go take a review of the video. We're going to see this transition. And she just pops her head up just to see where she's at. Going to drop a toe, make sure she's flattening the line out. You see her head is looking to the slider's left. We steer with our head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Our head acts as a bit of a rudder, and it just works to kind of steer away from the wall or whatever we're trying to get away from. And then a big bump on the slider's left as she heads out of Kreisel.
One more, there we go, and then off to Mr. Biscuits. Next up is Susanne Kreher, our new world champion. The 23-year-old looks pretty unfazed by the whole thing this season, her first World Cup season. This is only her 10th World Cup. She hasn't raced in the World Cup here, but she did race here in December 2021 in the Intercontinental Cup and was a winner. So, returns to a track where she knows she's got what it takes. Axel Junk watching on from the background there.
She's a very quick starter, 5'11", especially in the German team. It's nice to see.
Sort of wonder, slightly facetiously, how she made it into the German program with a fast start.
Little bit of a bump there, sliders right side, she heads into 4.
But nice at the top of the labyrinth. She's getting these corners nicely nailed together, isn't she?
Yeah, very smooth looking transitions for her.
And that's what happens if you get them the timing right, is it, or you just trickle down through them.
And it also depends on your sled setup as well. So can your sled handle that?
Oh, big height in 15, but the speed's gone away. She was leading Tina Hermann down to about corner 12, and at the line, 5th position, 51.98.
Just 700s behind Laura Deas. It's going to be a bit of a tight battle for that little area.
Yeah.
Deas, Susanne, and Kim Bos.
And there, you know, and there are so many variations in this track between runs, is that nobody in the top 3 is necessarily safe either.
No, definitely. Here she comes out of 14, just in a little bit of a skid. You can see her legs moving behind her, trying to bring it back to exactly where she would like to position the sled. Into big 15, you see that right toe dropping, but she is mighty close to that roof. And because of where her height is and how high it is, she actually gets a little bit of an extra pressure just at the end of the corner. She's coming out, but there's still more corner to push her over. So she had a bit of a flop into the uphill section.
Yeah, wasn't too bad, wasn't too bad. Gets accelerated as she plummets down from the roof there. Next up for Canada, Jane Channell, 9th place last time out, but also a 4th place finisher in her best race here in Sigulda. 4th, 16th and 9th, her last 3 appearances. Her best in December 2018 when we came here for the first time in, quote, the modern era. Strictly speaking, in the modern era, i.e. since it became an Olympic sport. That was the first time we came here. Let's take a look at what Jane has got again. Expect a fast start, 4:97.
Wow.
Disappointing, I know.
There we go.
Oh, but look at the skip down to corner 2. Down to corner 1, rather. A long, long drift, and it just,
Oy.
Yeah. Well, she's
Some
still
aggressive transitions, but she's holding on to that lead ahead of Tina Hermann.
Yeah, but here is where all of that skidding starts to haunt her. Only the 9th best speed. It's her start advantage that is keeping her in front, not her speed in the sled. And that gap will come down, 2200s. Wriggling out of 14, 3rd best speed, hits the wall twice, and that is going to see her plummet from the lead to probably 6th or 7th at the line. And across the line, 5th place, 51.93. So 500s ahead of Susanne Kreher, and 500s ahead of Kreher, 200s behind Laura Deas. So again, like in the men's race, we're going to have several groups where you've got 6, 7 athletes, throw the names up in the air and see how they come down.
Definitely. Jane, in her first year of sliding, came to Sigulda and started to learn this track. She was working at the Dukers when she first started, so she has an experience here before even the World Cup started racing again. She's such a strong athlete, and coming out of corner 1, just a little bit too much pressure, puts her into a bit of a skid, into 2. And then out of 14, this is that super long straightaway where you're just watching until you hit the entry of corner 15. Shoulders popping up just a little bit, and she ends up bumping on that left side twice. Coming out of 15, takes a double tap in that uphill section. Cleans that up, she's going to be fighting for a podium.
Yeah. The potential is definitely there for a medal, and a good clean run could put her right in amongst it. Now, Zhao Dan of China, just 20, raced here in the Intercontinental Cup and in the last World Cup outing. 2 top 8 finishes this season, but her best result on this track, a 23rd place finish. She should do better than that today.
Definitely. 5-12, a pretty strong start by this athlete.
And she has been most impressive in the way that she's reacted to so many different tracks this season. Just nothing seems to faze her.
Very calm, very relaxed on the sled.
And still ridiculously young, just 20 years of age. Whoa, big height.
Wait. Sometimes it's a bit of a domino effect on a track like that. One little mistake and it just keeps adding and adding to the next curves.
Yeah, drifted offline into 15, but not a bad exit from 15 to 16 through the Kreisel. From 1700s up, though, she is 9300s back. And that is a loss of a second, 52.42.
Wait.
And again, kind of just about escaped the labyrinth, and then a 10-11 crossover came calling.
Definitely. So she's just trying to use her toes to prevent this wicked bump that she's going to take. Throws her really high as she enters in, which then makes the next transition into 13 super aggressive, dropping that right toe to try and bring it back. But it just compounds on itself.
Yeah. You think you've done all right getting out of the labyrinth, and then there's another tripwire waiting there for you.
Yes.
Nicole Silveira of Brazil now. Final World Cup start of the season for her, the 19th of her career. 20th if we include a one-off appearance as a bobsleigh athlete, which we probably should because it's a World Cup anyway.
Yeah.
Joe Cicchini there again with the sled. And his snipers sliding group that he set up in Calgary 3, 4, 5 years ago now, I guess. Not only producing their own equipment in terms of running shoes and so on, but also producing a whole host of young athletes who are coming up the order. Nicole, one of those, the 28-year-old based in Calgary. She's a nurse in the Canadian medical system. And her best result here again in 3 World Cups, an 18th place finish. She will improve on that today.
5:17 start.
So only 500.
Big skid.
Yeah, 500s behind Xiaodan of China at the start. Slender lead over Tina Hermann early on.
Now, because Nicole is from a small nation, she has a cooperation with her girlfriend's team of Belgium, Kim Meylemans. So that adds some really interesting dynamics into this.
9th best of the start, 11th on the splits. Just losing a little time here. Decent enough exit, keeps it clean, not too much skidding. And the speed's not bad either, clean out of 15. Going to be a top 10 run.
Yeah.
Ahead of Anna Fernstaedt. Does she know she doesn't? She was just ahead of Anna, didn't quite get across the line in front though. 52.27.
Little bit of skids up top, but overall that was a pretty nice looking run by Nicole.
Started the season well with an 8th place finish in Whistler, the season opener. And yeah, there's so many small nations here where it's, you know, kind of one athlete and maybe a coach, that there's an awful lot of pairing up going on, helping out with, from the bigger nations to the smaller ones, but also the smaller ones are sort of self-supporting each other as well.
Definitely. This is a pretty nice straightaway for her. She heads into 15. A little bit of a drift to the sliders left, but nothing too dramatic. And then into this uphill section puts her into, again, a little bit of a small skid, but nothing like we've seen some of the athletes struggling with. Coming up, Kreisel must be cut especially tricky this year because bumps are happening for everyone.
They are. You saw the hit with the wall just trying to pull her vest off as well, and those are stitched to be super tight so they don't flap around. 2 sliders left in the first heat. Race 8 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup here in Sigulda. 29th World Cup start for Valentina Margaglio. 4 World Cups here. The progression has been a 14th, a 10th, a 12th, and an 8th place finish last time out.
488.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Hello. Only 400s away from that start record.
Well, she sure can start a sled, and nice and quiet at the top, straight down the middle of the tubes into the top of the upper labyrinth.
Just needs to keep pushing this speed all the way down the track.
Working hard for the stability. Still nearly half a second ahead of Tina Hermann. And that gap has come right down. All of that legs akimbo work has taken the speed out of the sled, and she gets a double tap as well, coming uphill into the Kreisel. And across the line, 11th place.
Halfway down the track, she really looked like she was holding on to something.
Yep.
But she was steering very, very, very hard, which made her have some pretty lines in some areas and oversteering and still not having the prettiest lines in others.
From 10 on down, it was just kind of damage limitation.
That big toe steer just trying to prevent the tap. Gonna get a little bit of airtime, really abrupt transition for the sled. Gonna take away some of that speed, and then coming out of 15 into that uphill section comes off way too soon. Corner wants to pull her back, but ends up taking the double taps on the wall uphill as she heads into Kreisel.
She's getting thrown around like a rag doll there at the bottom of the track, wasn't she? She was sort of in the stream and not able to manage So our final slider in this first heat is Belgium's Kim Meylemans. And Kim with 4 World Cups and a Europa Cup appearance here. She in Europa Cup in January, she took a silver and a gold medal. She's had 2 fifths, a 6th and a 4th place on this track in World Cup racing. Anna Mirabel yelling her off at the top.
5:13 start. She loads onto the sled a little bit earlier than we've seen the other athletes do.
Yeah. Well, she's still suffering from those 2 broken ankles from pre-season in Whistler, so she's still not walking comfortably, never mind sprinting. And the timing is just off all the way down here.
Seems to have brought it back just a little bit, but she's not going to stay in the green for too much longer.
Big hit, 11 to 12. And then 13 to 14, needs a clean exit here. Doesn't get a particularly good one. 1600's back. 3rd best speed though. Meylemans again, a product of the German program, learned early how to hold on to that speed at the line. She's 5th. There you go. And that is how you stabilize the ship, because it looked like it was all starting to get away from her, Elizabeth, and she brought it back.
Definitely. I mean, that's her experience to be able to have those mistakes, bring it back. But honestly, clean up those mistakes. She'll be fighting for a podium position as well. Big height in the first pressure there, and she drops her toe, but it's not enough. So she ends up taking a big bump on the slider's left side, which then really sets up poorly the next 2 corners. And then as she heads into this long straightaway, she's having to do so much work. Just stays on the corner far too long, pushes her over slider's left, just is fighting that sled. So to have top 3 speed with a run like that, watch out.
So the Belgian line glowing on the top of her helmet. And 1 more run in the season for Kim Meylemans, and indeed for everybody else here. The regular season ends in a little over an hour's time. Tina Hermann takes the lead into the final heat of the year. She is hunting for win number 4 and for the Crystal Globe. And somehow it looks as though it is inexorably heading in her direction. Kimberley Bos not well placed to challenge, down only in 8th place. Might have to do a little bit of arithmetic and see what other changes might be happening. Mirela Rahneva in 3rd place in the overall rankings is currently 2nd here. And Brogan Crowley from Great Britain battling for that podium with teammate Laura Deas, with Kim Meylemans, maybe with Jane Channell and Susanne Kreher, maybe Kimberley Bos, and maybe Neise. What are you talking about, Martin? They're 2800s back. On this track, that's nothing. Look how close some of the margins are as well. I think we are going to have a big sort out in the 2nd heat, because there are a lot of women who will have a lot of issues with their first run. Join us then for the final heat of the season. Can't believe we're there already. 1700 local, 1500 Greenwich Mean Time, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. For Liz Meyer and the IBSF TV crew, Martin Hemsone, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a little under an hour.